So it's been a little bit of time since our last Fire Emblem update, and we have a little bit of something to go over today when it comes to Fire Emblem on the Nintendo Switch 2, potentially on the Nintendo Switch 1, what's going on there. I've made multiple videos on this when it comes to Fire Emblem 4 Remake, and I wanted to talk about what Nintendo did recently, where I think that Nintendo's going to be announcing something sometime soon when it comes to Fire Emblem. We've got some other big Nintendo Switch 2 RPG news and other things to go over, so let's go ahead and jump right into it when it comes to Fire Emblem and what Nintendo's doing. Now, what we reported on before, at least what I've been reporting on for the last number of years, is a Fire Emblem 4 remake. For those who don't know, that is Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. This is one of the best and most influential Fire Emblem games released of all time back in the Super Famicom era. It never got officially localized here in the West, and we've been waiting for decades now to play this, at least officially, from Nintendo in English and other languages outside of Japan. And it looks like maybe something could be happening. Now, shout outs to my man Stealth over on Twitter, and he had this to say about a post that Nintendo put up on Nintendo Today, the app, and it says, Fire Emblem series art from Nintendo Today. It's only a matter of time before a Fire Emblem game is announced for Switch 2. Now, for those who don't know, Fire Emblem had a massive increase in popularity on the Nintendo Switch 1 with Fire Emblem Three Houses. That is by far one of the best-selling strategy JRPGs of all time, and one of Nintendo's better-selling RPG series out there. If you take away Pokemon when it comes down to it, Fire Emblem is pretty much their next best overall. And I do think that Fire Emblem is going to be coming, considering what it did on the Nintendo Switch 1. If you look at Fire Emblem and all of its games, every single Fire Emblem title that released on the Nintendo Switch with a normal release at least, all sold 1 million units plus. Fire Emblem Three Houses sold 4 or 5 million units, somewhere around in that range, so that is incredibly good for a strategy RPG. Fire Emblem Engage sold 1.6 million units plus, probably closer to 2 million at this point, considering those sales are pretty old. So Fire Emblem did really well on the Nintendo Switch 1. You also have the two spin-off games, Fire Emblem Warriors and Fire Emblem Three Hopes. Both of those sold over 1 million units as well. So there was plenty of Fire Emblem money, sales, and content on the Nintendo Switch 1, and Nintendo already declared Fire Emblem a major franchise for them back in the Nintendo 3DS days after Fire Emblem Awakening absolutely exploded to fantastic sales, pretty much saving the franchise. And then, of course, we know what happened with Fire Emblem Three Houses and where that is now at this point. So I do feel that Nintendo is still going to get us something. I know that I've been talking about Fire Emblem for the Genealogy of the Holy War remake for quite some time, but it only seems logical to me that it's essentially going to become a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. This game, although it was never officially announced, we've got some good information that it's coming. Nate the Hate talked about it multiple times. I also have a separate independent source. Once again, Nate didn't tell me anything outside of what he told publicly overall, but I have a separate independent source that says that yes, there is a Fire Emblem remake that they're working on, and it should be Fire Emblem 4. So I just know that there's something with this game, or there's something with what they're doing with the remake series overall. So I do think that it's probably shifted. This is just speculation on my end, but it's probably shifted to a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. So very similar to a game like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. That game was announced back in 2017, and then it was scrapped. Not saying that Fire Emblem was scrapped, but it just took so long to come out. They essentially just said, okay, well, it's getting close to the Nintendo Switch 2 as well, so let's go ahead and just put that on Nintendo Switch 2 and have a Nintendo Switch 2 edition that makes dramatic improvements over the Nintendo Switch 1 version, to where most of the hardcore Metroid fans are going to want to experience it on the Nintendo Switch 2, because it gets you 120 frames per second gameplay. Obviously, you've got 1080p, or you can do 4K 60, which is going to be nuts for Metroid Prime overall. Plus, in portable mode, you've got 120 frames at 720p, you got 1080p at 60, so there's some nice technical configurations to play this game. Plus, on the Nintendo Switch 2, you have the mouse mode as well, which should be pretty nice for a first-person shooter adventure type of game, or at least to try it out, see how fun it is to pick off enemies with Samus that way. So I do feel that that could be the same course of action for Fire Emblem 4 Remake, have a Nintendo Switch 1 version in addition to having a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, and then have some exclusive features like mouse mode, for example, on the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Fire Emblem 4 Remake, because I think it actually worked really naturally when it comes to mouse mode and Fire Emblem, just because it's on a grid and it's very similar to kind of picking up, dragging and dropping units. You can do that really fast if you have a mouse, so I do think that they'll add something like that. Obviously, there'll be better graphics options overall for this type of game. And Fire Emblem games always have crazy amounts of theatrics and cool cutscenes and great stories and everything. So I'm guessing it's going to be pretty good when they finally decide to reveal this game. So hopefully we get something at a direct that's coming up. People have speculated when this direct is going to be. I don't know for sure, but I do think they'll have something either this month in June or probably next month. And we haven't heard anything yet of a Nintendo Direct. We usually get some whispers of something coming up within this week or so, because we don't have that much time left in the month of June, but they just launched the Nintendo Switch 2, so I'm guessing that maybe it could be a July type of thing where they have some type of announcements when it comes to different games overall. We just got that Splatoon Raiders announcement as well. They still need to detail more of that game in addition to a release date, because I do think that it's probably coming out this year as well. So what do you guys think about Fire Emblem and what Nintendo's doing there, and potential Fire Emblem 4 Genealogy of the Holy War on the Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, Switch 1 and Switch 2? Let me know in the comment section below. But you can also let me know if you want to win a Nintendo Switch 2, because we are giving one away. I wanted to extend it a couple more days just because I had some issues with my Twitter. Now it's back, I can actually put up the post, which I've already done. So I wanted to extend it just for a couple more days. That Nintendo Switch 2 will be given away on June 18th. That's this Wednesday, so make sure you check out the link in the description below. Head over to the community page, vote on there, drop a comment, and I'll get you a chance to win. Now let's go ahead and jump into the next topic here, and we're going to discuss a little bit more in depth with what's happening with Cyberpunk 2077, the third-party games on the Nintendo Switch 2, and what's happening with physical and eShop, because I talked about this in a previous video, but I do think that it was a pretty masterful gambit by Nintendo here to position Cyberpunk as the big single-player RPG type of game to play and to boost its sales when it comes to the third-party profile, and a AAA game to show that, hey, look, Nintendo fans will buy that. Now, there's been talk about the launch lineup and how, oh, there should have been Metroid Prime 4, there should have been some other type of big single-player experience to go alongside Mario Kart. Sure, that definitely could have been an option, but I do think that would have maybe pissed off CD Projekt Red, as they took a lot of time to create this Cyberpunk version. Now, don't get me wrong, guys, I'm not the biggest Cyberpunk fan at all. I do think that there is a nice playing version on the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's definitely much better than when I first played the game on the PlayStation 5. They fixed a lot of stuff, interface, graphics, all sorts of stuff, bugs, glitches, playability. Everything's been kind of retooled quite a bit for this game, so I'll give them props for that. But I do think that Nintendo wanted to put this game in the position when it comes to the 64GB cartridge all on there, and a big AAA game to show developers that, yeah, this can do well on the platform. And I do think that if you had another game like Metroid Prime 4 or another big single-player game already kind of shoved into a pretty packed launch overall for third-party games, I think that might have discouraged some of the sales of some of these other third-party titles, single-player games that are doing well. So I do think that it was a planned and calculated move, and it does look that way, because if you look at the two different charts here, we have the top 3 best-selling Nintendo Switch 2 physical games from Circana. It's Mario Kart World in at number 1, it's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch 2 Edition in at number 3, and in at number 2 is Cyberpunk 2077. Now, if you go to the eShop sales, it is essentially both the same thing with the top 3 games. Well, number 3 is the Tears of the Kingdom upgrade pack, and then a little bit later down the line you have the actual Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch 2 edition. But in at number 2 is Cyberpunk 2077, and then Mario Kart World. So whether it's digital or physical, a lot of Nintendo Switch 2 players are probably playing Cyberpunk for the first time, or they're essentially giving it another shot, or just trying it out again with the portable version and transferring over their save data, considering there's so many different ways to play the game. So I think that Nintendo really kind of scripted it that way. They already had Tears of the Kingdom, they already had Breath of the Wild, they had Bravely Default, they had quite a number of big single-player RPG adventure type of games to play, and they wanted to balance things out a little bit. Obviously, you have Mario Kart World as a huge multiplayer type of game. There's other multiplayer games as well, but this was definitely a planned and scripted move, and it's working out pretty well for CD Projekt Red, and I do think that this is going to lead to other developers, of course, supporting when it comes to seeing, okay, Cyberpunk did it, we can definitely get our game going, and then of course what CD Projekt Red is working on in the future when it comes to The Witcher 4, for example. I do think that they'll bring that over however they can when it comes down to it. Don't know if it's going to be a day and date thing, but just like The Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch 1, they'll get it done, but I think it's not going to take as long considering that they're already in at the ground level when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 with dev kits. They're probably one of the first people that got them, so I do think that CD Projekt Red is in with Nintendo Switch 2, and these sales for Cyberpunk 2077 are going to prove really good, and I would say experience-wise fruitful for the future and what CD Projekt Red does with some of their other games. So what do you guys think when it comes to what's happening here and how Nintendo played it with Cyberpunk, obviously Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild updates, Mario Kart World, how they position things within the launch lineup on top of all of the upgraded games that you can get, the free updates and stuff like that? Let me know in the comment section below. But now we're going to move on to a game that's launching this week and a game that I'm going to be playing as well, and that is Raidou Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army. We've got the launch trailer and exciting updates as well. So Atlus has released the launch trailer for Raidou Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army. Now there will be a live stream on June 18th at 5 p.m. PT/8 p.m. ET featuring some exciting updates, the winning in-game titles from the player title campaign promotion, special guests, and appearance from Raidou Remastered, The Mystery of the Soulless Army director Kazuyuki Yamai. You will also be able to watch it on YouTube, so that's something that we might check out as well on the channel, or at least report on what's talked about there. So if you don't know about this game, you can undertake the case of the century in this must-play classic from Atlus, the studio behind Shin Megami Tensei Remaster's Devil Summoner Raidou Kunozoa versus the Soulless Army, with revamped visuals, quality of life updates, new voiceovers, and an overhauled battle system, which I do really like what they've done with the battle system here and the revamps with the cutscenes and the gameplay. They've added a lot of quality of life options and features and updates. It's definitely not a lazy remaster, but the only issue that I have is the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, obviously not on the full cartridge, and there's no upgrade path. So if you wanted to get it on the Nintendo Switch 1 and then upgrade path from there, you can't do that because the Nintendo Switch 2 version only has two options, either fully digital or a game key card if you want that. So that's the only unfortunate thing when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game, but I'm still looking forward to playing it. It runs at apparently 1080p 60 frames per second in docked and handheld mode, so it's running and looking good on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I'm just looking forward to playing the game more and kind of experiencing this game, because I remember seeing it back in the day. I never really got a chance to get into it, but now is my chance, now with a much better and much improved version of the game. So it's looking pretty good. Combat looks fun as well. Looking forward to getting back into that SMT style when it comes to the demons and everything. It's been a while, SMT5 Vengeance, playing that. So it's good to be back when it comes to Atlus and their RPGs. So what do you guys think about Raidou Remastered and what they're doing here for the game? Planning on checking it out? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright guys, we're going to move on to the next topic here, and we've got Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. We've got physical editions for the PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. This is definitely one of my most anticipated indie or smaller type of games. I really like what they're doing with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound before Ninja Gaiden 4 comes out later this year. So Silver Lining Interactive will distribute physical editions of 2D side-scrolling action platformer Ninja Gaiden Ragebound for PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch on September 12th, the company has announced. Now, you get a copy of the game for the PS5 or Switch, you get an official soundtrack, and a retro booklet. And there is a special edition which gets you all of this stuff that I'm going to put up right here on screen. Premium box, pixel standee, double-sided hero medallion, 4 metal pins, cloth map. It's pretty cool. So if you want that, there's also that as well. Now, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is due out digitally for the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC via Steam on July 31st. So it's going to be at the end of next month as of the time that I'm recording this video, but I wanted to get this special edition trailer and everything out so you guys can kind of plan on what you actually want to do for Ninja Gaiden Ragebound overall. But remember, the physical edition does come out on September 12th, 2025, so it is going to be a bit after the digital edition these are the type of games that I actually support twice. When it comes to like an independent or smaller game, I'll usually get it digitally, then also get the physical edition later down the line too, just for my collectors. So I'm definitely going to be picking this one up, and the box art looks awesome on here as well. So what do you guys think about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and everything else that we talked about? A lot of different discussion and topics here. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you check out the link in the description. Enter into our Nintendo Switch 2 giveaway that we have going down. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification to get the latest updates, and we will see you for the next one. Peace.